Coming up on today's episode.
Let's go into the big thing that everyone's talking about at the moment because we've just introduced new laws, underquoting, but I want to hear it from the agent perspective because I feel like this upsets you guys just as much as the public.
I think it pisses us off all the time. When you look at the whole process from meeting a client initially or whether it's a current client that you've worked with multiple times.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've got there always happens to be a listing in the same vicinity or street that you're discussing.
Always.
Like magic. It is literally like magic.
Dodgy advice and bad decisions can cost you big in real estate. We're here to make sure that that doesn't happen. Welcome to the No BS Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Agresta, and it's time to take control of your property journey together.
Hi guys, Daniel here from the Coronis Group, back here again for episode 2 of the No BS podcast. I'm here to talk about behind the scenes of real estate. Let's go.
Welcome back, everyone, to the No BS Real Estate Podcast, your listening how-to guide to the Aussie finance and real estate market. I'm your host, Joe Agresta. Now, today, we are welcoming back someone listeners absolutely loved in his first episode. Daniel's last appearance went off, okay? Buyers, sellers, and even other agents messaged saying how refreshing it was to hear someone explain real estate like a human being who's an agent. Daniel Temos from Coronis Real Estate is one of the rare agents who can break down the madness of selling and buying property without the sales spin. He's funny, he's straight talking, and he's actually good at what he does. And in this episode, we're going deeper. We're talking about what a good agent genuinely does behind the scenes, why underquoting hurts everyone, including honest agents like him, how price guides really get set, and how vendors derail their own campaigns, and how to work with an agent like a person instead of a stereotype. So we'll also be playing a little game where we look at real Victorian listings and unpack what's going on with their SOIs and price guides. And Daniel didn't know about that one, so we've just thrown that in. And by the end, listeners will understand how to read a campaign properly, how to spot red flags without being paranoid, and why good agents hate bad industry behaviour just as much as we do. So Daniel, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Joe. I'm really excited, and it's good to know that there was some positive feedback from the first pod that we did.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm surprised that you mentioned that agents wrote in as well. So you can tell me about that off air.
Oh, 100%. No, the agents, I'll tell you a little bit about it. So some of the comments we get emails after episodes, or we get voice memos. And I love the voice memos. You guys keep sending them in because they're great. But some of them just saying, I didn't actually know, I didn't realize how much knowledge and stuff goes behind every listing, but also the amount of work you do in your business. Because in the first episode, we'll put the first episode link in the show notes below for those of you who missed it. And you can listen to what Daniel does and how his business operates as a whole. But they didn't realize how much you actually had behind your business. Mm-hmm. Like you have a lot of the rental side is covered, the selling, the buying. And it's a really kind of full service. And I know that that's what you've been working towards in the future, which we won't talk much about, but it's one of those things that every ambition of every agent is to try and facilitate. Yep. So we had really good feedback. Some of the agents that reached out said, he represents our industry well. That's what we do.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah. So that's why I had to have you back.
Oh, perfect.
So
let's get into it. I'm keen.
Let's get into it without further ado. But we had a big chat over coffee in a really questionable suburb picked by me.
Never again up in the Excel.
I was trying to be quick. Oh, yeah. we went to the first diner, which I found out opened as we left. I reopened at 5:00, so they must have been on break.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough. But we sat down for 2 hours getting right under the hood of, you all know me, you've got me on socials, I love to hang a bit of shit on agents. I am an ex-real estate agent. I model all of that off people I know, people I worked with. But when I get people on the podcast, this is not the time where I'm bringing them here to hang shit on them, okay? The whole point of today's episode is really to go behind the scenes of all the good agents that I know I worked with, Daniel being one of them. And I have a very good nose for this stuff because I've worked in the industry. I did it for 6 years. I've seen every type of agent. And when I get a good one, I'm like, please come onto the show. Please sit down in the chair, shut up and talk at the same time.
I'll have to ask for an appearance fee next time, I reckon.
I think so. Here we go. Here we go. He's getting big for his boots. No, I'm joking. All right. So, Daniel, buyers think that every agent is dodgy. It's always the sentiment that goes out in market. And sellers then have this opinion that they need to have their agent, but then they also sabotage their own sales at the same time. From the inside, is the industry broken, in your opinion, for these perceptions?
Short answer, yes. Obviously, each consumer and each circumstance is different when we're sitting in front of potential vendors in particular. There's obviously some common themes around that. But,
Yeah.
Usually when we're having a discussion, people obviously want that, magic number. And sometimes it can be difficult to educate them through when, you're maybe not necessarily the first agent into that meeting.
Yeah.
You might be the third, fourth, maybe even sometimes the fifth. And then you've got to counteract what they've been told before. So usually that first or second one will give them a number that is within their own sights. But then when you kind of come in with a realistic point of view and go, well, we understand that this will be an ideal number tomorrow.
Yep.
But the market is not quite performing there. Can we actually do things that will assist you to get as close as possible, not necessarily reach it, but as close as possible to make sense?
Yeah.
And if they are, let's unpack that. I find that some people aren't necessarily open to that. Once they know that number, it's like, that's the number and that's it. And it's like, well, we then sit back after those meetings and go, well, is it a client we want to work with or not?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, true. Because
Well, at least I do that anyway.
Yeah.
So then we look at, are we going to spend a lot of time on this and are we going to get a good result in the quickest amount of time?
Yep.
Or are we going to be beating up the wrong tree because they've got a nice cloud 9 sort of number, which doesn't make any sense in the market?
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's true what you say, that you have to assess whether you actually want to take that on, because even when I was in your position, it was similar. It's vendors who had really high expectations, and maybe that was set by another agent interview they had before me, that day. And they're like, oh, well, the other agent said I can get, 900,000. And you're like, yeah, the market's at like 750 to 800, 820. Like, I don't know if we're going to get there. It's interesting that you also take that assessment to go, well, hang on, because like it damages your brand too when properties sit on the market for 3-4 months.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what vendors don't give enough consideration on.
Yeah.
We're here to, not only are we in a service business, we're here in a results-based business.
Yeah.
So help us help you.
It's true.
Like we want to get a result for you. We want it to be a positive experience, because that positive experience will then allow you to tell 3 more people, 30 more people. We don't know who's in your network. We'd love to know who they are, but unless we're doing a good job for you, you're not going to tell anybody else. So if I know that if my recommendations aren't going to be heard to bring a property to the market, the vendor's open to doing the right things, not necessarily everything, but the right things to get a positive result.
Yeah.
Then we've got to evaluate. Yes, there might be great people, but they may not be great clients to work with. And ultimately, we've got to draw the line. At least I draw the line to go, you know what? There's plenty of agents out there. I think you're probably best suited to maybe go with somebody else. I'm sure they're going to do a stand-up job. We're never here to knock any other agent, despite our own, thoughts and processes around that. But the reality is, not every client's a good client.
Yeah, it's true. And I would agree with that on so many levels, because having been in the real estate side selling, like as an agent, there were a lot of clients like that basically didn't have their expectations set the right way.
Yep.
And it made it really difficult when they then wanted to go with your agency.
Yep.
But you knew that their price expectations were just totally unrealistic, and trying to bring that down to market level.
Well, just a quick example I've got for you. We listed a property over in the eastern side of town. We won't get too specific. And, we were of the opinion that it was worth a certain number based on the stats.
Yeah.
But the market didn't allow us to generate the interest there.
Got you.
So this property, we went back and forth, ran our processes we normally would. The property probably could have been presented better, but we had a renter in there, so that caused some challenges.
Yeah, that's hard when there's a tenant.
And then, the owner was also the type of person who, didn't want to lose $1 from what he originally bought it for 12 odd years ago.
Yeah.
So, we worked through a, 4 or 5 month process where we were trying to condition it and we try not to condition too much because we shouldn't have to be in that position.
Yeah.
But the evidence was there. We had low numbers at opens. We had barely any inquiry, and the motions showed that the reality is the price point's the biggest trigger.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, he was having alternative conversations with other people that were put in front of him that were giving him, certain feedback, which was fine. And we were happy to work with it. But I also understood my client. He wasn't going to spend any more money that he didn't need to.
Yeah.
If there was no guarantee he's going to get a premium, which I understood.
Yeah.
Right?
Which you get.
But then you're also holding us up getting a result for you because you don't want to adjust price point and position in the marketplace. Now, I know for a fact we then agreed to disagree that he should probably work with another agent because I got to a point where I'm like, I can't keep putting my time into this.
Yeah.
And I was realistic about that. And I told him honestly.
Yeah.
And I said, look, it's not that I don't like working with you. We obviously do quite a number of different transactions in like together.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is he wasn't going to allow us to adjust the numbers where they needed to go so we can start to progress the property or the campaign.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we agreed for him to move on and work with another agent. And the price point that I had been banging on for 2-3 months, they've now listed it at that. And I'm like,
so frustrating.
That sort of stuff actually pisses me off.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't badger me about doing a shit job.
Yeah.
When you've just gone down the road to kick the can, and what I've been banging on about, stressing about, you've gone and given them the opportunity at the same price point. And I'm like, how does that doesn't add up?
Yeah, no.
Like, if you're going to do that shit, don't waste my time.
No. And it's so frustrating because then what they don't realize they're doing, and this is where I really wanted to, why I'm bringing you in, right? Because I feel like a lot of the time the agent's brand, not all agents, but agents like yourself, gets dragged down because vendors sometimes set their expectations very high.
Yep.
And, you're not necessarily trying to just win clients and say, yeah, we'll sell it at whatever price point you want, mate. We'll get you the job done and it's all good to go. It's all the stuff, and this is what we're going to unpack, what you don't see behind the scenes of every listing. And then basically they're borrowing your brand and then everyone shits on you guys to say, oh, you're doing an unrealistic job. That price is dodgy. That listing's not worth that much.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I'm working with someone who's got all the emotions attached to this house.
Yeah.
They see their home worth X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
But then in the same token, and this is a call out to vendors out there who are in this position. If you're hiring an agent, let them do the work.
Yeah.
Follow the guide. And if it doesn't suit you, maybe it's not the right time to sell. Maybe it's not 100%. The right market.
And that's ultimately the conversations we have. Like, if we're sitting in front of Jo as the consumer and she's got, let's call it an investment property, and it's got to achieve a certain number, but the timing of the market or the market as a whole is not quite suited, we want to be able to guide you that if you actually needed to transact it, we can make it happen.
Yeah.
But the reality is there's always a percentage of that discussion that's around, but do you really need to sell it now? Because it might be worth more in 12 months' time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So going back to my example, he should have withdrew the property off the market and tested the market in 12 months' time to give it a rest. He's literally
100%.
gone from one to another, bounced back like a jelly bean. And I know for a fact they're still sitting on the market. And to me, it's kind of like, well, sucked in. I fucking told you.
Yeah, 100%. It's true. Because what I think people like, so if I go back now down to the buyer perception, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, and I know you guys submit questions around this, when they see, the perception is, I've seen this property come up on my realestate, .com 6-7 times in the last 3 months. There's a problem with it. Mm-hmm. That's the immediate reaction.
Yep.
Must be a problem, it's not selling.
Yep.
And oftentimes there's no problems with the actual house. So I'm not saying that there never is, but majority of the time, would you say that that's pricing?
9 times out of 10, yes.
Yeah.
I'll give you another live example of a transaction that we've just been working on. We had a property where it's been managed by another agent.
Yeah.
So they had to navigate the tenancy. We did a walkthrough of the property before we decided to have a discussion about bringing it to market, because we agreed that would sort of work in an off-market capacity to see if we can turn it around a little bit.
Yeah.
The first walkthrough I did of that, I was a little bit shocked by the state of it. And I mean, we see some shit, don't get me wrong. But I walked into the property and my immediate thought was, how can I represent this the best way possible for the vendor?
Yep.
And the answer was I couldn't.
Wow.
So I told him, I sent him a video, I sent him photos, and I said, listen, unless we maneuver the tenant, if you got capacity to manage that over the next handful of months and do a little bit of work to that property, it's going to be difficult to represent this on market at a price point which we believe is achievable.
Yeah.
Because it had some elements that weren't presented in the rest of the block of units. So this was like a townhouse style property, and it was at the rear of the block. It had a nice courtyard. Not the other ones didn't have that. So we were positioning it at a certain price point, which was reasonable in the marketplace. Problem is the condition let it down heavily. So price is an element, and it's generally 9 times out of 10 the biggest problem. But the condition of how it was maintained for us to stand at the door to present it the best way that we want to represent it for ourselves was not there.
Yeah.
So that caused us a bit of grief. So we agreed with the owner to take a different approach, which we did. The problem is that we couldn't take updated photos. So we used the owner decided to use some previous photos of a different campaign.
Yeah.
And it was like chalk and cheese. So we had people coming through because the price point was aligned where it needed to go. As soon as they walked in, they walked straight back out. I'm like, how do we combat that?
This is the thing that I love that you've brought this up, right? Because this is the other factor that buyers bring up all the time is, they advertise, false advertising. They put these photos of the property, then I arrived and it's a completely different house.
Well, I'll draw you there because everyone will automatically say false advertising.
Yeah.
Now, they've got to understand that you've got a vendor.
Yeah.
It's an investment property.
Yeah.
And it's managed by a different crew altogether. Because 9 times out of 10, the selling agent and the managing agent, they're not the same.
Yeah. So and this is a very specific scenario of the tenant being in there. Yep.
Yeah, correct. So that, like the false advertising part, like I dealt with that. Standing at the door, trying to manage access with that tenant was difficult enough. But actually having to manage the expectation of people coming in to say, look, I know what you've seen online, but unfortunately that's not the presentation that you're going to see today. I just want to be open about that.
Yep.
So from the get-go of them, before they even stepped through the door, they knew exactly it's not what's online. I do apologize for that. But that's the position we're in, and we're trying to move this for the owner as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
And then we had to sort of navigate that process so we could then manage the price point expectation based on the feedback.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a double-edged sword. Whilst they were looking at what it was, the reality is that it allows us to collect enough data, feedback specifically from a buyer to go, hey, Mr. Vendor, this is the feedback. This is not just my perspective.
Yeah. Now you've got market feedback.
This is the market feedback. If we're going to move this, we probably need to adjust price. I firmly believe if that property was presented to the best way possible, it had all the elements to achieve the best possible price in the market. And I said that to my vendor.
Yeah.
But then, they sort of had a sly remark at some point that, we knew it wasn't going to be worth that. I'm like, well.
Then what are we doing?
Well, if you took the feedback and allowed us to run a process the way we should have, we probably would have exceeded the expectation. So, that's the reality.
See, this is where why I wanted to have this chat, because I feel like a lot of this stuff, what people, and I want to explain this simply, agents are coming in, like a buyer's agent, right? If you know buyer's agents, you're paying them to help you buy a property. Now, you generally put your trust in the buyer agent to just find it, source it, make sure the data's correct, stacked up, and then they just give it to you and you can buy something with confidence, right? Yeah. It's the same with the real estate agent, but the problem is that because the sales agent does more of the flashy stuff in terms of you're marketing properties online, you have to advertise, you've got to draw people in, you're doing a job to make that house sell. And that's the role.
Yep.
But then what I've noticed in my time in real estate and talking to other agents like yourself is vendors really can tank reputations.
Yep.
They can tank their own listings and their own sales process because they think they know better, but they don't want to do it themselves. They still want to go down the path of using an agent, but they want to dictate as much as they can.
From a consumer's point of view, they see the value of having the assistance to move the property as it needs to.
Yeah.
But then they do sort of cause the roadblocks when it comes to the expenditure required to make that work.
So then talk to me about perfect vendor for a moment. And like, I know there's no perfect, but like, what's the kind of best things, like what are the best things that someone who's thinking, like who's listening today going, I've been thinking about selling, I'm not sure what, like, I have a price in my mind because I'm seeing that across the road they sold it 900,000, in Pascavale, and they got this beautiful house.
Yep.
What's kind of the ideal, that you get have you got an example of when you got a good result, and then what kind of drove that good result in terms of the relationship with the vendors?
Yep. So the best example I can give you is we had a client a couple of years ago who had an investment property. It was meant to be a home that they were going to retire to come back into the city life,
Yep.
Which they ended up deciding against, hence why they ended up selling it. But it had been mismanaged, and I think I may have spoken about this on the previous pod, but it was mismanaged. We took it over, we managed the tenancy. When they were ready to actually sell it and they wanted to go down that process, they weren't shopping around with other agents. They were solely taking my advice from day dot to getting the result. So the best part about that is that we had enough trust that I wasn't there to penny pinch and make them spend money where they didn't need to. We put a plan in place. We effectively put something in a way where we said, okay, we know that they're going to spend money, but let's maybe put a budget around that. If we exceed it by a little bit, by a short buffer, they're okay. If we exceed it by double, then we've got a problem.
Yeah.
Right. But ultimately what happened was they entrusted me to get the right teams in, work within a budget that they set themselves, even though that I knew they had a buffer. And then we presented the property in a way that they hadn't seen in 20 years.
Wow.
Right. And to be honest, we didn't do anything magical at all. We hardly touched a bathroom. We hardly touched a kitchen. All we did was give it a revamp.
So
mostly
just like
cosmetic.
new paint.
Yep. Painted some fences because it was a terrace home.
Yep.
We painted some fences. We fixed up the facade a little bit. We cleared up some gutters. We tidied up the front and back yards, which weren't really large.
Yep.
Painted the inside, did some carpets, did some window furnishings, and all of a sudden, they were like, well, if we needed to move into this, we could actually live in it again.
It's like now they've revamped it for themselves.
Yeah. So it's like they saw the value of the investment, but then ultimately there was a time where the market was performing in a way where they had an ideal number, which wasn't too far off the market. We knew it was possible with the right campaign and the right strategy.
Yeah.
So then what we were allowed to do was bring that to market and then achieve a result, which they were still to this day tell me that, that was the best experience they ever had.
Yeah.
So that is the perfect example. Now, as you said, there's no perfect vendor.
Yeah.
But for me, a perfect vendor is listen to the recommendation. We do this every day, every week.
Yeah.
We know what needs to happen to move it in a timely manner. We're not saying in 7 days. You might get lucky.
Yeah.
But, within a short time, not in 4 or 5 months, and then you're badgering me going, well, what have you done? I'm like, what do you mean?
It's like, what haven't I done?
Like, there's nothing I haven't done.
Yeah.
Right? It's those times then we look at it and go, well, you got a price problem.
Yeah. And this is I love that example. And I know, we did talk about it on the last episode, but I wanted to bring it up again because it's a really good example of all of you who were sitting there who have interviewed agents maybe in the last couple of months. You hear things like you should stage the property. You need to maintain it, like new coat of paint, maybe a new carpets, maybe, furnish, take all the family photos down. Let's try and make it sellable.
Yep.
And and then you'll hear the agent sometimes say this could, mean the difference of maybe $10,000 to $15,000 more on top of it. And you're only spending maybe $2,000 or $3,000 in some cases to get this done. And I think that risk factor for a lot of vendors goes, oh, but are you going to guarantee it? And it's like, no, I can't guarantee anything. What I'm saying is give this property the best opportunity to sell itself.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to put it up and say, oh, I'm not touching the inside, you're going to take photos and you're going to see my kids in them and you're going to see my wedding photo and you're going to see all the ugly stuff.
Ultimately, you can't force a vendor, especially if they're living in the home that you're trying to sell. You can't force them to do the things they don't want to do, but you hopefully will have enough sway to get them to understand the reasoning on why.
Yeah.
Because, believe it or not, you always have that thought in the back of your mind that if you don't touch anything and it presents beautifully and all of a sudden something goes missing, I'm on the chopping block.
Yeah.
Now, I can tell you right now, if someone accused me of something going wrong during an open, you can fuck right off.
Yep.
Because we do everything we can to limit anything going wrong. But if you don't take the advice on why we do certain things, you're taking that risk.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll never put a figure around, if you spend 5, you'll get 20. I don't like to talk numbers because I can't guarantee it. I don't want to guarantee it.
No.
Let the market dictate what it is. If you do the right things and give it the best possible chance, you will reap the reward.
Yep. And you see that every day from
Always.
those vendors that take that advice or take that
100%.
Opportunity. You see those properties perform better and move faster.
Getting the best possible result for a vendor in the market is no easy feat.
Yeah.
Right. But the reality is vendors should allow us to utilize our expertise on what we see in different campaigns on different properties in different zones, etc., to allow us to package something together to work with them to say, hey, this is what we believe will work for your property.
That's right. Yeah.
If you don't do that, then you're taking the risk of not getting the best possible result.
It's so true. And I think one of the things here, this is what I wanted to talk about is, and we have to go into it, right? So this is a really good scene for the problems in the market, in the sense that you've got perception issues. Because I think a lot of the issues stem from what you're saying is optics.
Yeah.
You've got people someone's a buyer, they're wanting to buy a property. They don't want to be had. And they're always on the defense straight away. Then you've got the seller who's trying to get the best possible price. Yeah. This is simple bargaining. This is like retail shops selling something for $100, a pair of shoes, and you're like, I don't want to pay $100. I want to pay $50.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, listen, that's the price.
I think the same emotion goes into it. We're just talking on different price scales.
That's right.
The reality is.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately we're in the position of, we've got to manage both sides, both sets of emotions.
Yeah.
Right. So if we know we've got a buyer who's very keen on the property because there's enough emotion there to go, look, I'm not super emotional, but I really want this property.
Yeah.
Great. Let's work together. If we've got a vendor who's in a similar light, but is very, hey, I get it. We've loved this place. It's been home for 15 years. We love that buyer. We saw them at the open for whatever reason it might have been. I try not to let them cross over too much.
Yeah.
Because sometimes certain conversations will blur the line a bit.
Yeah, of course.
But then all of a sudden you've got supply and demand.
Yeah, right there.
Okay, let's try to manage that. And sometimes you've got to give a little bit of wiggle room. The buyer wants to win, but the vendor also wants to win.
Yeah.
And we're just in the middle to throw negotiation behind that to go, okay, how can we piece together the best possible result?
That's right, because when you've got that situation, I think a lot of buyers don't get this too. They say, oh, I've put in my offer and nothing's come back. The agent hasn't got back to me. Or the agent got back to me and I didn't get it, but I had the best price, so I gave the best terms. And I think what's not realised is that vendors have a weight in that decision the most. That's if they like the buyer or they've seen, they've come across the buyer maybe when they were leaving the open, they've come back, stuff like that. And they go, oh, I really want to sell it to those guys.
Yeah.
This is what kind of happens where you then start facilitating okay, well, I have to be fair to everyone, but if no one else is bringing in offers, let's see what these guys can do.
The problem with that is I never say to anyone that I'm in a position to be fair. I'm here to facilitate a job, right? Ultimately, that job's for the vendor. So whilst we're here to service the vendor as much as we can, we've got to be mindful of the buyer because without the buyer, we can't get the deal done.
That's right.
And the reality is sometimes they might have a strong offer, but there's elements of that offer that don't unfortunately make sense to a vendor, which is something we've worked with super recently. So we've had to manage the expectation around how can we better it because we know you're the right buyer.
Yeah.
But how do we then stay true to, well, you're also the client in this transaction. So how can it be a positive experience for you as well? And then you have the 1%ers where you've got, a signed contract that's well and truly within the process and they want to go and change the terms. And I'm like, it's not the way the process works.
No, not at that point. You can't do that.
No,
even as a buyer's agent.
It's signed off. There's no change.
If you had a buyer's agent, we would not be doing it.
No. I'm like, how I don't understand. You've signed off, the vendor signed off, you're both in agreement, but now you want to change the terms a week after the fact. Like, excuse me?
Yeah, no.
Like, no. So we just then push back and go, okay, this is now in the hands of
the
conveyancers, lawyers, whoever you're dealing with on the other end. This is where I now pull back. I've facilitated the negotiation. We've got it signed off. I'm happy to help, but it's got to go through the avenues now.
That's right. And that's, I think, what a lot of buyers don't get is like at that point after contracts are signed, after it's all accepted and the cooling off's done and dusted, that's now conveyancing. If there are issues, so this is why you have final inspections, right? Because you go through the final inspection and you might find that there's a problem and go, oh, that was working, I thought. Like I thought we had, no hole in that wall. Now there's a hole. Like that's a very extreme example, right?
That can happen.
But it can happen. And then they go back to the agent and the agent usually will say, I can't really do anything now. You have to go through the conveyancer.
Yeah.
And the reason you go through the conveyancer, because people just think the conveyancer is a means to an end. They're like just there to facilitate contract reviews. It's like, no, they're representing you.
And that's it. Yeah.
Correct. Like they're representing you, just like the vendor's got their own conveyancer representing them.
Correct.
Now you have to come to an agreement. And we had it at our place. I had I had a condition when me and my partner bought a block of land, and I said, listen, that land has to get cleaned up. And I said, I want that totally cleared of all the rocks and debris. Can we put it as a condition in the contract? They agreed, right?
Yeah,
so there was no problem. Signed off. Then a week before, I thought, let me go visit the land because I'm, just see if they've cleared it up. And there was about 4 days out of settlement, wasn't cleared.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when the hell are they going to do this? So I called my conveyancer. I said, hey, when are they clearing the block? It's not cleared. She came back and said, oh, they're really busy. What they said is they promised to come back and do it the following Monday after settlement. And I've gone, they promise. I said, they've had 4 months to do it. And I said, no, I don't trust that. I said, listen, I'm going to get a quote to get it removed myself. Got a quote for $2,500. And because it was all these heavy rocks and stuff, sent it back to the conveyancer and said, tell them to deduct it off the price. And I said, and I'll do it myself. I said, otherwise I want them there before settlement and I want it done properly.
Yeah.
And they just said they were a bit shitty, and they said, no, we will go back Monday. I said, don't care. We agreed. You didn't do it. You either knock it off or you get it done.
Yep.
They just said, knock off the price. I knew they wouldn't do it. So I'm like, cool. I got $2,500 off. Yep. But I didn't go through my land agent or the listing agent that sold me the block. I went through the conveyancer. And they were the ones that kind of said, you could do it this way, you could do it that way.
Things that are pet peeves.
Correct.
It's like we're not the lawyer handling the contract on the back end.
Yeah. But then we're the ones that get blamed when you're in the agent position. All the time. It's the scapegoat.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to break down. So let's go into the big thing that everyone's talking about at the moment because we've just introduced new laws, underquoting, but I want to hear it from the agent perspective because I feel like this upsets you guys just as much as the public.
Oh, I think it pisses us off all the time. When you look at the whole process from meeting a client initially or whether it's a current client that you've worked with multiple times.
Yeah.
And, you've got there always happens to be a listing in the same vicinity or street that you're discussing.
Yeah. Always.
It's like magic. It is literally like magic.
So,
and what happens is one property will be a nice renovated home, which you can walk in, open the door, happy days. Same lot of land, same size of home, etc. Down the street, you might have the exact same thing, but it's just not as pretty. Right? So depending on how you evaluate what value that should achieve will determine on naturally data.
Yeah, of course.
But ultimately, also the expectation of the vendor.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got two properties, very similar, one amazing and one probably not so amazing, needs a little bit of TLC.
Yeah.
But they're in the same street. Right? Now, price points you would think would be relatively similar.
Yeah.
Based on the general stats of the 5K radius, whatever your radius you're working in. I believe that if you've got a transparent price guide and your statement of infos, they should all align to what you've told the vendor you're bringing it to market for.
Yep.
It should be similar caliber of property, similar land size, should be very close in vicinity, not 3 suburbs away.
I love those ones.
Right? because they're usually the ones. It's like comparing Pascaval and Essendon.
Oh, no, you can't.
How can you have a $2 million property sale from 6 months ago in Pascaval to justify an Essendon market? In my opinion, I don't believe you can.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't.
But they're different.
But it happens.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So then people are trying to justify price points based on, oh, well, that sold 6 months ago. That's fine. I'm like, yeah, but they're also two different houses,
Mm-hmm.
right? They might be the same size, but they're two different houses. They're going to have two different types of buyers. Those markets have two different types of buyers. Yes, there's crossover, but they're still different. So when we're going in and we're saying to Joe, hey, your property should fall within that sort of 1.2 to 1.4 range because it's a, let's call it a side-by-side 4-bedroom townhouse. I know in Pascaval, you're probably going to spend somewhere around that 1.3, 1.4 very comfortably, and you'll be on either side of that.
Yeah.
But then if you've got, a 2-bedroom, single level, aesthetically beautiful, that's all for 1.2. Well, like, what? How the fuck does that stack?
Yeah. It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah. It's like, I get emotions and auctions and whatever, but I'm like, how can you then be super conscious of not underquoting when you've got that level of stat?
Yeah, because it's like you're comparing.
Yeah.
And this is where I want to go behind the scenes, right? Like, as an agent, you do competitive market analysis.
Mhm.
So for those of you that don't know the experience of when you go with an agent and like they first sit down with you, they're typically taking you through, they'll go through the property, right? They'll inspect it, take maybe half an hour, 45 minutes.
Yep.
Then they'll sit down with you and start. They've already done the research. So
Yep.
you would have prepared like all the CMA reports, which is competitive market analysis reports. You would have done the desktop valuation, which is typically used by brokers.
Yep.
And then you're just comparing and going, cool, here are all the suburb stats. Here's what's sold. Here's what's on market.
Yep.
Here's what we're working with
Yep.
to try and then come up with a rough range on the property.
That's exactly right. Personally, the process I take is I will come out and meet you first to see the property. I haven't been in your property before, so I need to know what it looks like on the inside.
Yep.
That will give me a better gauge on when I'm looking at comparables of how comparable something is.
True.
Right? Because the land value, all the data's out there, you can find that easy.
Yep.
You can look at the facade, no problem. You know the active sales and past sales in the street, very easy. And the vicinity of where that location is. What we don't know is how much it's changed since you bought it. You could have been there for 3 years. You could have been there for 10 years.
Yeah.
How much has it changed? Has it changed at all? So then we've got to go and evaluate. So we'll have a desktop sort of piece of information that is relevant and referable in a meeting. But that CMA should, in my opinion, come after that meeting once I've actually come in and seen your property.
And that makes more sense because you're actually assessing
that way we can be a little bit more accurate on the assessment for a comparable.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Because this is, what that kind of brings me to is this is where a lot of agents potentially, like I know this, but you got to bear in mind, I was an agent in 2010. Yep. The way I was taught was very different. Yep. It was a much heavier sell kind of mindset.
Well, I think not much has changed.
Really?
To be fair. I think a lot of, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I think a lot of selling agents still will speed along the timeline because it's mostly a transaction rather than a process.
Yeah.
So they will go and have a desktop val in front of them. They'll have a CMA in front of them, and then the next step is ultimately going to be yes, thanks, here, sign there.
Yeah, correct. Right. That's how we were taught. And I remember saying to my boss back then, but I haven't seen the property. And she goes, yeah, you assess it. You've already done the research. You know what you're going to sell it for. And I'm like, but what if
there's a thought process around that, which does, you can operate in that space.
Yeah.
But I think if you put your buyer's hat on.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at this, you're sitting in this property going, well, who's the buyer for this?
Correct. Who's the target market?
Right. Your assessment should be very accurate, right? And the whole notion of a vendor sitting in front of an agent, they're like, oh, well, we've got a database of X. Well, kindly piss off because all the buyers are the fucking same. They're just in a different database. I don't care what anybody says. No one is that special that they don't know somebody who knows somebody.
Yeah, correct. Because you use your networks. It's the networks. Like often as an agent, I didn't go by the database because it was full of people who already bought houses.
Yeah.
Right. And there was the off chance that they have their notifications turned on for a property because they're back in the market.
Correct.
But very often, all my leads really would come from the realestate.com listing, anyone who found the inspection, or I would contact one of my brokers, one of my buyer's agents, not a buyer, back then it was brokers I mainly connected with and said, I've got this property. It's about to come to market or it's on market. Do you have a buyer? And that's often where they go, actually, I've got someone who might like it.
Yeah. So essentially what's replaced that is the buyer's agent.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Because they've got the qualified buyer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the good ones will.
The good ones will, that's true.
So
not the ones that charge you at the end of the transaction. That is not correct.
Just go, cool, now it's your problem. It's all good.
No.
But yeah, so just going back to the underquoting thing, I just think that the laws are a good thing because they will provide transparency. It's not going to stop, in my opinion. I don't believe it's going to stop actual underquoting specifically. Hopefully they will just minimize the gaps. And what I mean by that, the sales that go to auction that sell 250, 300, 400 above reserve, and you're like, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
It will probably minimize that. And ultimately, the reason why it's 3, 4, 5, 600 is because you've underquoted the shit out of it. Yeah,
correct.
That's reality.
And this is something you said to me in our meeting. You were like, I can't stand those agents who then pump up this house sold for over 60,000. It sold 60,000 more than it should have.
Yeah.
And you were like,
and I'm like, yeah, that's because you underquoted it by like 200,000. Like, I don't fucking wonder why.
And it's
read the room.
And it's like, this is how those tactics of when they sit down with vendors and they go, we typically always outperform our property, the market price by 20%, 30%. And you're like,
now,
hang on.
I'm going to say something controversial here because I know that there's the 1% of agents who are absolute top tier in their game. And, I don't want to offend anyone, of course. It's a small world out there. But I think 9 times out of 10, if you've got a property that you're looking at selling and you're shopping around with every agent, there's always going to be 2 out of the 4 who are going to pump up the price and then crunch you once you're on market and it's not selling.
Yeah.
Now, that is not a service I'm willing to provide.
Yep.
If that's a service that you're looking for because you want bells and whistles, price points and whatever, hey, we'll work with you. We want to get the best possible result. We want you to tell other people about us.
Yeah, correct.
But I'm not going to give you the bells and whistles price and then make you undercut it by 300,000.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, that's not the job we're in for. But let's not make a mistake. Like, we are in real estate. We are here to work with vendors to get the best possible result. Now, sometimes when you look at price point positioning and underquoting, they kind of play a role for a reason.
Yeah.
Because you need to gauge the people into that market, into that property. There's a way to do it where it doesn't seem like, we've overkilled it here.
Yeah.
And if you already know that within first week of your campaign, well, I can make the adjustment. Don't let it run for 4 weeks.
Yep.
Like, it'll be very evident.
Yeah, that's right.
So just change it. Speak to your vendor and change it. Tell them this is where we've got to change it. And hopefully you're changing it with an increase rather than a decrease.
Because and what you said is not a bad thing, right? There's 3 core things that your agents are going to do for you, right? One is the assessment of the value. Yep. Now, one thing I'm going to make very clear, because I don't really talk about it much, but I wanted to take this opportunity. When you get, people always talk about, the council, according to my rate, says the house is worth blah, right? And it's always really low. Then what happens is you get some sort of bank valuation that comes in. This is typically after you've sold the property. The bank val comes back. They even lower it even further. And they go, it's worth this much. Now, the market price, what the real estate agent quoted you and it's sold for, is this price, whatever random price it is, right? You got to remember, the prices are ultimately dictated by the buyers. It's you guys, okay? It is you guys. If you feel that a property is not worth that amount, don't buy it. Don't offer. Keep your money and look for something else that you think is worth that money to be spent, because ultimately you're the ones that are driving, and I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying that's how it's a selling price. It's an indication of here's where I think the market's going to spend their money. The bank valuation is just looking at the makeup of that property, going based on all the data points available for that suburb and similar properties. Here's what we believe the valuation of that property to be. And bank valuations are different too, yeah? They can do curbside valuations.
Yeah.
They can do desktop valuations, or they can actually come to the house and inspect it. And they also differ.
Yeah.
How, like, those prices are also different. Those 3 options there. So what you're getting with selling properties or buying houses, that's dictated by market. If no one's buying, like I worked in a market where there were no buyers, right? Back in 2010 when I started out, that was the worst market. It was just after GFC. It was shocking.
Yeah.
And there were no buyers around. And when we did get a buyer, we had property sitting on market for like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Because vendors would not reduce price. They needed to sell. They had certain price points. They had certain situations, divorce. I couldn't get vendors to agree. All that kind of stuff comes into play for the agent. And then you've got these houses that sit there and there's no buyers for them. That's because the market's not there. It happens.
Right.
Market is not there for that property, for that price point. It's not the right time to sell if your expectations are friggin' up here and then your buyer you're the buyer coming in going, well, here's my feedback. No.
I think the two best metrics that you can understand from a vendor that you're working with is the reason they need to sell it.
Yep.
Not want to sell it, need to sell it, and ultimately where their price expectation is.
Yeah.
Now, if those 2 things can somehow align enough to see reason with what the market is doing and performing and where ultimately buyer feedback sits in price points, which we try to gauge as much as we can, especially early in the campaign, that should allow you to adjust and maneuver where you need to find a happy balance to make it meet.
Yeah. Makes sense.
If they're worlds apart, they're never going to meet.
No. And
right? But I still think a lot of agents don't quite understand the need to sell something.
Oh, interesting. Talk to me about that.
I think that when I'm sitting down, like I mentioned, it's a bit of a 2-prong effect. I come out, see the property. I don't give you a CMA. We talk loosely around price points of the market. In that meeting, without them really realizing, I'm trying to really delve into how much they're willing to tell me on why they need to sell the property.
Yeah.
Because they're obviously sitting in front of you because they want to sell it. They want to bring it to market, but there's a need somewhere there.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can let them open up enough, and just be a normal human and allow them to trust you enough to go, look, this is the reason why we need to sell it.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose money, but the reality is we need to sell it. We need to part ways.
Yeah.
So be it. Or I need this to sell because we've bought another property and we can't settle unless this one sells.
Yeah.
That's a different thing altogether.
Yeah,
I'm not even going to touch that.
No,
but
that's a next episode.
But the reality is that there genuinely is a need if they're sitting in front of you, especially if they're taking the time to see you 2 or 3 times.
It's true. Like we had, even when we listed my grandma's house for sale earlier this year, interviewed a couple of agents, and when I sat down with one in particular, like my grandma was there. My grandma was the typical I want $1 million, right?
Yeah, like everyone.
Yeah, it's typical Italian lady. And she just kept saying it. And I looked at her and I said, oh, shush. Just hear what they say.
You don't need to be in the meeting anymore.
She cracked it with one agent because they said 850 to 900 and she lost her shit. And I said, just listen to the explanation first. And she goes, I don't believe it. We have 12 car spaces. We've got 6 bedrooms. We've got 4 bathrooms. I'm like, I understand. Yeah. I'm not saying I don't agree with them. I'm just telling you, just listen.
Yeah, that's it.
Right? And then the one agent that came in, she really looked at it and she goes, look, this is hard to price because there's nothing comparable in this suburb. There's nothing.
She was honest.
Yeah, she goes, there's nothing to compare it to. I've got no baseline. The biggest house I've sold in this suburb had 5 beds, 2 baths, and it had 4 car spaces. Your house has 12 car spaces. You've got 6 bedrooms and you've got 4 bathrooms.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to justify how high we're going to go.
Yep.
And, auction was a discussion, but my grandma was like, I don't want auction.
Mm.
What if it doesn't work? And she was very, scared because of the suburb, right? It's Noble Park. So we're not expecting big turnout for Noble Park auction, okay? And I said, don't do auction. It's not the market for it.
Yeah.
And this is like, no, not doing auction. I know you want to. No, just private sale. I reckon we'll get it done. Okay. But the battling I had to do with my grandma, like the agent thanked me. She goes, thank you so much for understanding.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm like, you're not going to win a battle with her. Yeah. So I said, she will listen, but she wants a certain price.
Yeah.
And I used a lot of the tools that I've built with abodey to kind of see what I could come up with in the pricing. And I shared it with her. I said, look, here's my research. Mm-hmm. I think we could get anywhere from 950 to 1.1 would be decent.
Yeah.
I said, in my opinion, because nothing else was selling at that mark back in May. And we did. We sold it for $1 million. So she got it, right? But that other agent that came in at 850 to 900, he came in and he didn't do – this other agent we chose did your process.
Mm-hmm.
She just saw the property first and then she went away. And then she came back and she goes, I couldn't find a comparable. Here's the position. And I appreciated that honesty. She didn't try to sell me the 850 to, you know, 920 price. Whereas that other agent came in with all the things ready to go and said it's 850 to 920. And I said, on what basis? Show me your CMA.
Yeah. I'm a big believer that when you're sitting down with a vendor, you've got to realize that they, in their own mind, despite what you think as a professional, they've got a unique house regardless.
Yep.
Right? Whether it's a dime a dozen, 3 better, 4 better, whatever. But when there's those unique things, when you're going through and just having a humanized conversation about, okay, why do you actually need to sell it?
Yep.
It allows you to bring it into full view. To go, well, how different is the house? Is there anything comparable? Have they been here for 20 years and nothing sold in 20 years that's like this? How are we going to compare that? So then someone who is like the agent you dealt with who said, hey, hang on a sec, there's actually nothing comparable. Well, that's as honest as it's going to get.
Yeah.
And you then have a choice. You either understand that they're probably going to be the right agent for you despite what you're hearing.
Yep.
Or you're going to be hard-headed to go, well, I still want 1.5, I don't care.
That's right. And this is what I think when you don't have someone in the family who can sort of like be that voice of reason, it's the agent that's coming in and then the vendor, you freeze up and you don't know what to trust, right? And it's like, but you can do your own market research. You go online and have a look and have an honest discussion if you need to with the agent and get them to help.
I think the reality of real estate as a whole is that there's a lot of data available to anybody who can navigate tech.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting in front of an agent, they're not going to tell you something that you probably don't already know.
Yes, true.
That's the reality. So I always walk into those meetings going, cool, you've probably looked me up, you've looked up 4 other agents, you've done all the research, you know what the market's doing, you know what the recent sales are in the last 12 months. There's nothing I can tell you that's going to shock you. But what I can tell you is honest.
Yeah.
About XYZ.
And I think like this, you know, one other thing on underquoting, right? They changed the laws last week that now you've got to, if you've got a house up for auction, you've got to publish the reserve price at least a week before. And then they tried to bring in the SOIs as a measure to stop it. So that's the Statement of Informations against every listing, right? This is Victoria only, by the way. This is not everywhere. So Victoria, when you list a property now, you've got to do the Statement of Information.
Yeah.
It goes against the listing. And this is part of the game I'm going to play with you shortly. But I see a lot of these go up and then you see the price guide.
Mm-hmm.
I see sometimes, especially there's a particular agency that I always fucking see it and it shits me to tears because it's guaranteed. I'm like, here we go. They'll put up a unit.
Yep.
All right. It's a unit, call it Cranbourne, 450,000 of 650,000. I saw one to 750 and I've gone for a unit, Cranbourne North. Fuck no. And I'm like, okay, hang on a minute. Let me look at the Statement of Information. And I have a look. Now, my first problem is when I filtered on realestate.com, I was looking for houses and that came up listed as a house. They didn't list it as a unit. So that's already, I'm annoyed. Then the second part is I go to the Statement of Information, I open it up, and then I see, which really irritated me, that they've given the valuation based on a house. And I can see it justifies the advertised price point. So I can say, okay, they chose the valuation that says 650, 685 approximate. I'm like, okay, so that's house valuation.
So based on that example, where is the honesty as a professional?
Correct.
To bring that to market?
Exactly.
If you were legitimately dealing with a house, cool. Hey, there's no issue.
Yeah.
But when you're comparing houses to units and then you're inflating that price to meet because that's probably where the expectation is.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but you're not doing the right thing.
No, and it shits me to tears, right? Because as a buyer, you have no idea unless you're looking at that and it confuses you because then you see their comparables at the bottom. This killed me as well.
Yeah.
Then I see 3 comparables at the bottom that say oh, well, this sold back in May,
Yep.
so just shy of 6 months,
Yep.
and it was a unit, but
Yep.
it sold at 659. And you're like, okay, weird. Okay, so they're trying to justify it. So far it's looking good. So all the prices seem to line up with the house valuation.
Yeah.
Then I open them up. The attributes of those properties are completely different.
Yeah.
4-bed, 2-bath, 5-car space. 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car space. And I'm like, we're comparing the house in question here is a 3-bed, 1-bath, 2-car. And you're telling me that the valuation that you got on here for houses for a 3-bed is this? It's just all of it doesn't add up. And it's a mess. And
I think that just comes down to laziness. You're not doing enough assessment.
Correct.
That's all it is. So even when you're putting a CMA together, ultimately you're looking at a few things, not just the attributes or the condition, which you're going to see in the photos anyway, or you would have seen it physically because you've done a site visit and met the owner. You're going to look at where in the suburb that it is in terms of specifically location of the parcel of land, how big the parcel of land is, how much that property's changed. There's so many different elements. So you can't just go, oh yeah, it's a 322, but then you're dealing with a 423 property. How can you use that as a comparison? Are you just basing it on price because you're trying to meet the level of expectation? Then you haven't, go back to the first meeting with the vendor if you're doing one properly to align that where it needs to go.
Yeah, that's right.
You shouldn't have to do it after it's been on the market and all the buyers have shit canned it.
Correct, because you as the agent, you don't want this bad rap that people brand you with.
100%.
And, I do apologise for hanging some shit because you're not all like that, but it makes fun content.
Yeah.
And you can blame Karina, actually. I'm going to blame Karina. But it's what I've realised is like we're such the middlemen in the situation when you're in the real estate agent shoes, right? And you're trying to balance everyone to make everyone happy. But ultimately you're working for the vendor. And I feel like the vendor uses you as the vehicle to sometimes drive their message. So it's like, I need this price. That's it. I'm not negotiating. I'm also not going to not sell it. So it has to go on the market and I have to work with you. And you're like, okay, we can try it your way for 2 weeks or a week. And if the market's not there, I'm going to come back to you with price feedback. And that's what we were talking about when I met up with you the other day.
So I think all of the things that they've bought in, like, putting out what the reserve is. I think you should just do that through the whole campaign. So it's very transparent rather than the week before.
Agreed.
Because imagine all the conversations you're having 3 weeks prior to that. That's just my opinion. The statement of infos, again, they're there for transparency, right? Do the right thing and put the right information in there. If it's genuinely uncomparable, like I've seen SOIs where there's no comparables and they've just got a price point in it.
Oh, I love that. And then they sign it just saying, trust me, I know.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, if there's no comparables, try to find something that's evident enough. If you can. If you can't though, then do what you got to do because you've got to add one in there anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
If you've got a 7-bed property and there's only comparables for 4-bedders, well, you kind of got to do what you got to do. You got to add the statement of info anyway.
That's right.
Right? But it's there to be transparent. Like, be better as a professional. Because I try to do my best to put my best foot forward for every client I deal with. Sometimes it doesn't swing our way, but it's just the way it goes because we deal with people. But ultimately, like, if I can go through the 1%ers and try to be as accurate as I possibly can be, and I know we don't have a crystal ball on what's going to happen tomorrow, then everyone else can do it. If you're lazy enough because you just want the transaction, you just need another sale and you want to gloat and fucking, I wrote $1 million and fucking whatever, mate, fucking good luck to you. I don't give a shit. Right? But I shouldn't have to then wear the brunt when I'm sitting in front of vendors going, your brand's not big enough. We saw the campaign that you ran and, that was on the market for too long. Yeah, fucking circumstantial. It's got nothing to do with me.
It's so true. But it's so true. Like, and this is what I'm trying to ram home with this episode is vendors who are listening, you're hiring a professional to do a job. Take the advice where you need to. Not saying that you have to roll over on everything, but
no, not at all. Like,
and you
we're
can't
just
talk.
here to be as honest and human against the transaction as best as we can. We're not robots. We don't expect you to take every piece of our advice and run with it like it's the golden goose. It's just allow us to do what we do best to ultimately drive home the best possible result for you.
Because that's what everyone's trying to win at the end of the day, right? The agent's not coming there because they think this is going to be a cakewalk, like they're going to overquote you. Those agents that do that, and I do run into them, right? That tell you
it's always going to happen.
Always happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll always exist. You don't have to take that verbatim and run with it.
100%.
You keep assessing agents. Like I've said that to buyers in the past that are buying and selling.
Tell vendors and buyers all the time, you have a choice of what you do. Don't take my word for it.
Yeah.
I can tell you all, like as a buyer, like on a property I'm working on, I'll know the values that make sense for what we're standing in today.
Yeah.
But ultimately for a vendor, I tell them all the time, like, don't take my word for it. Let's bring it to market. We'll give you some active feedback if we've got legitimate feedback.
Yeah.
Because if we're not getting feedback, I can guarantee you we're having a discussion on price, and we don't want to have a discussion on price if we can avoid it.
Yeah, correct. Because you want the campaign to run as quickly and smoothly as possible.
We want it to run as smooth.
Yeah.
Speed isn't necessarily a thing. Smooth.
Yeah.
I would rather get a deal done in 5 weeks than 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
If we know it runs as smooth as possible, we get the desired result.
Yeah, that's true.
Because sometimes you may find that you've got a buyer who's super keen, wants to buy it in 3 weeks from campaign commencement. And then all of a sudden, yeah, it's a great figure, but it just doesn't make sense because we genuinely feel like there's more in the market.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think one thing to change gears, I want to go behind the scenes of like what you do, and I want to talk about pre-campaign, right? So let's say you've won this listing and the agent's gone, okay, cool, Daniel, I'm signing up with you, mate.
Yep.
Let's go for it.
Yep.
What happens before the sale board goes up that helps transform these properties? So,
one word, presentation.
Yeah.
Presentation before we position price. So we will look at, do the gardens need tidying up? Does something need a little bit of TLC so it looks the best way possible? Internally, do we need to paint it? Do we not need to paint it? Blinds, curtains a bit too old. They probably need a bit of an update. Mostly we look at it from a cosmetic point of view before we look at it from a lens of, shit, your bathroom looks pretty bad.
Yes.
We probably need to look at something for the price point we're looking to achieve if we've already partly decided that. And then once we've got that all aligned on a timeline, then we go, okay, are we staging or are we not staging? If you're living in it, we're probably not going to stage. We might partly bring a few pieces in, but not a whole lot. If it's something you're not living in and it's vacant, then we go through the full staging process and we get our stager through and we'll present it, agree on, the aesthetic of the look and that buyer feel that we should present.
Yeah.
And then from there, once that's done, obviously photos get done. And then once those photos are getting done and they're shot through to the vendor for approval, that's when we start talking about price point. Okay, I know we've said this, but looking at more closer data over the last couple of weeks while we've been preparing, this is where we should be placed. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
And by that point, you've done enough to handhold the process where they're like, you know what, we trust what you're doing. Do what you got to do.
That's right, because you've set up the property for sale to a point where it's
and
like,
then they're obviously seeing the fruits of the discussion that we had.
Yeah.
Maybe 3-4 months out.
Yeah, that's true.
So then it's come full circle. So then when you're sitting down to have that price point convo again, it's like, yep, we know what we're shooting for. The market's still there.
Yeah.
But we should price here just enough to allow that buyer perception to go, hey, we're in the ballpark.
That's right. And then it's all about just, making sure that they're comfortable, but it's a lot that goes into pre-campaign, right? And all of it's about that kind of pre-preparation because
100%.
then when
it's also on their timeline and decision.
Yeah, true.
As well. Like we're never saying you've got to do this by then, you've got to do that by then. If they say to us, we want to sell and be settled by X date, then we'll reverse engineer that.
Yep.
And we'll go, okay, cool. Where do we need to do X, Y, Z that we've already agreed or pre-agreed to?
Yeah.
And how long is it going to take?
And start
and then we start to manage the process.
And then when you go during the campaign, what does that day-to-day work look like for you? Because I think what a lot of people fail to realize is agents don't manage one listing. They manage multiple listings. You got multiple buyers, different properties, and then you got opens for inspections, and you got bids and auctions and all sorts of shit happening.
All of that stuff.
What's your day-to-day look like?
It's a mixed bag. So if we're running an auction campaign, generally we know we're going to auction unless we've got a very amazing figure that we can work with on paper from a buyer.
Yep.
So 9 times out of 10, once the campaign is set up and ready to go, we've already got a pre-approved offer inspection schedule. So we know on certain days, on certain times, the vendor can expect us at the property or whether they're living there or not.
Yep.
And they know that our feedback is coming at certain time points. So there's no room for the unknown.
Yeah.
Sometimes that feedback comes a little bit later than we anticipate because we've had a healthy number through opens and it takes a bit more time to sort of get through it for that active process. We'll have a touch point, whether it's in a WhatsApp group or a quick message, say, hey, I know I haven't reached out yet, but we're just working with a number of different buyers, etc. A lot of the time we're spending time around offer inspections, private inspections, building inspections, trying to manage offers pre-auction, and then ultimately negotiation if we've got a number that makes sense to the vendor.
Yeah, that's true.
Outside of that is, making sure we're managing expectations of if we're running right through to auction, are we going to have the numbers there? So we're managing the buyer process very closely.
Of course.
Which means you're probably on call a lot.
Oh, yeah.
To manage that when you've got a healthy campaign, you price it well, you've got the right property and it's going to sell at auction, then you're living and breathing that one campaign. So when you're sort of holding 3 or 4 different campaigns at one time, there's a lot going on in the background. So all you feel like you're doing is spending your time on the phone and nothing else. And then trying to keep your vendor at bay so they know exactly what's happening. And sometimes you don't want to give them false hope, but you want to give them enough to be satisfied that the campaign's running in the right direction, because I've seen what can happen when you give them a little bit of extra hope and then it falls in the 11th hour and you're like, could we have avoided that? Did we maybe say too much? But I mean, we're here to give you a real-time process,
that's
and
right.
there's platforms that we can introduce to give them as real time as possible, but ultimately the communication around that is going to be key.
Yeah.
If it's a private inspection, again, very similar thing, but you've kind of got an open-ended timeline. So some might say there's less pressure, but it's still a campaign. And you want to try and manage a good result in a timely manner.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me. I think one of the things you've said there that's so key, and I can't believe how quick the time's flown, to be honest, because we're already over an hour. Producers looking at me going, hey, guys, you're over an hour. But what I love about this discussion is you've brought such honesty to it. And I think the insight of the day-to-day, I think a lot of people think agents are just door knocking or letterbox dropping. And I think, yes, there's time that absolutely does happen. But a lot of the time it's that campaign work for every listing you have is
becomes
huge.
A priority over anything that we do in business.
Of course.
So, we're obviously in a contact sport. We've got to, speak to as many people to get them to know you, to trust you enough over a period of time, build a relationship to do business. That's a never-ending wheel. But when you're a smaller boutique type of business, sometimes that's the one thing that sort of drops off a little bit more than what it should, because you're ultimately running campaigns and you're responsible to clients, you're responsible to response times for buyers. So we don't miss the opportunity. But ultimately it's just time management, I think. And, if you're working with good vendors who've got good properties that are priced well, the rest just seamlessly works. You got to put the work in. Nothing good comes from no work.
I think the biggest thing here for today's episode, I'm going to finish it off with a quick game and then we're going to wrap up. But this quick game is designed to debunk some of these stereotypes, all right? Give us some justification. So I want you to explain the truth behind some of them, if you agree, disagree, or if you want to explain any truths behind it.
Okay.
Are you keen to give it a crack?
Yeah, keen. Let's go.
All right. First one. These are ones I've pulled from TikTok comments, by the way. So you can imagine the caliber of shit I have. Yeah. So agents wear so much cologne they smell like the Maya perfume aisle.
Short answer, agree. But honestly, when you're dealing with people we're in a contact sport.
Yeah.
When you're running, at 1,000,000 miles an hour every day, think of it like dealing with a tradesman. Tradesman comes past your place. He's been working all day. It's been a warm day. He probably fucking stinks.
Yeah.
Do you want your agent to be like giving you a bit of BO while you're trying to negotiate a deal? Probably not, mate.
No.
Like, so, but I get it. Agents should probably just tone it down a little bit, smell good without being a little bit too on the nose because you've just gone and sprayed half the bottle.
Yeah.
5 minutes before you walked into there.
Yep. It's like you're in the
probably
car.
give it 15 minutes, mate.
It's like you got to put the window down just a little bit.
Maybe pace the street for a sec.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Next one. Agents pull up in European cars like they're starring in a money laundering show. I loved that one, actually.
Look, I'll agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. We're all human. We all want to drive a nice, beautiful car that will last forever. But ultimately, there are two types of, I'm going to say, agents.
Yeah.
The ones who are doing the work and getting rewarded for that.
Yep.
No worries. Pull up, do your thing. Just don't park outside directly the property you're walking into. Like, don't be that person. But there's also the other guys who are, up and coming who, how did they even afford it to begin with?
No, they've got debt up to the ears.
Probably reevaluate your life a little bit.
Yeah, I like it. This next one. Agents barely look at you at opens because they're too busy. They're too busy worrying that you're going to steal shit. How real is that?
Well, look,
because it's hard.
Take it from me. It actually has been real. It's hard to keep an eye on everyone all the time.
Yeah.
We try to put a process in place where if we know we've got more than 10 groups through at one particular open, we try to limit the amount of bodies in the property at any given time.
Yeah.
Within reason. We're not, telling people to wait for half an hour. You're never going to see it. So, we just sort of stretch it out a little bit. But I'll give you a real-time example. We had a teddy bear go missing from a property.
Oh, no. Not the teddy bear.
You can just imagine the shit we dealt with for that bear.
Oh, God, the bear.
Yeah. It was a bear. A teddy bear.
Do you reckon that was a little kid that just picked it up?
We didn't find her. We had to find a compensation route for the renter who was living in that property at the time, who was adamant that it was there. I'm like, okay.
But who's taken a teddy bear?
No comment. I'm going to say less on that.
All right, say less. The next one is agents say we had a lot of interest. Translation, no one's called. All right, I get that all the time.
Yep. I'm going to probably have to disagree. If you're honest enough, you're not going to shit talk anybody.
Yeah.
If you I know if I've done opens for 2 weeks and I've had no one, my vendor is aware nobody's come through. Even if we're dealing with a leasing property, if we've had nobody through, they know, hey, been there for longer than I needed to be, still had no one there.
Yeah.
If this continues the way it's going, we've got a price problem.
Yeah.
Or there's elements of the property that probably don't make sense. Like could be smaller than they anticipate, whatever it might be, which are things that we can't change, but we let them know anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
But it does happen.
No, and it's a good way that you mentioned it. It's like you're just saying we have no.
Like I've been there. I'm running my process. I can't.
But it's evident.
I can't coerce people to come and see me.
No, it's like when a property's been on market for like 6 months, and then they go, "Oh, we've had shitloads of interest." It's like all of a sudden.
No, you haven't.
That's like, what are you talking about?
No, you haven't. If you had that interest, you would have sold it.
Correct.
Or leased it, I guess.
Yeah, so it's like the time on market is one thing that kind of debunks that sometimes.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Do you know that a campaign will present the most amount of buyers within the first 10 to 14 days?
Yep.
End of story. If you're on the market for more than 3 months, you probably have no interest, or your price point, you're getting the interest, but your price point doesn't match the buyer's expectation. That's it.
Yeah, I like that. And I like this one. Agents open a 2 meter square courtyard and call it ideal for entertaining. It's like in the descriptions of the listings.
Look, I don't know what I can comment to that, to be honest. When I represent a property, whether it's for sale or for lease, it is to the truest form possible. As much as my time is limited, I meet my photographer on site all the time because I want a level of visibility of a property in its truest form possible.
Yeah.
Now, if you're taking a photo of a yard that looks like you've zoomed the shit out of that,
yeah,
from here to Cranbourne, something's wrong.
And I think this is like so many things about this episode I love today, and I can't wait to bring it to the airwaves because what we're kind of seeing from what you've spoken about is the transparency that you have in your transaction, how you deal with your vendors, how you're having those conversations with buyers, with like anyone in this process. It's all about what comes through really clear is the transparency. You're like, it's a big headache for me to bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like if I want to bullshit my way through all of these transactions, you make it worse for yourself.
100%. Look, I think vendors or just general consumers have got to realize that, we're here on your team. Your stress is our stress. Now, we don't want to stress during the campaign.
No.
So why would we then go and bullshit you?
Yeah.
And if you are working with anybody who is doing that, probably call it out.
Or move it on. Interview another agent.
One of the two.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, this is very clear. And the last one I want to ask is, this one here. Some agents act like you should be grateful for the chance to buy the house. I've seen this.
Fuck off.
I had this person, it was under an agent who posted a video and I got to show it to you.
Sorry, I had to.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, I hate that. It's like if it was a privilege, I wouldn't be buying it from you. I'd be buying it from the vendor direct because I'd go knock on their door, stupid. Like what kind of shit's no.
Yeah.
That for me is probably the most unprofessional comment an agent can say.
Yeah.
That's as honest as I can tell you.
Yeah.
I would never say that to anybody.
No, it's dumb.
Like,
but you should have seen the video. I'm going to send it to you.
Oh, please do.
It was unreal.
I'll be keen to see it.
I don't think you'll be surprised at the agent.
I can imagine.
But Daniel, this has been awesome. I think the final wrap up here is thank you so much for bringing your honesty, bringing your truth. I really want to stress on this episode for the vendors out there who are questioning their current agents and like if they're in the Pascoe Vale area, is it north side? I always fuck this up.
Northwest, anything between say Moonee Ponds and Pascoe Vale, I'm happy to have a chat. But if you're just really struggling that much, give me a call anyway.
This is the thing. Give Daniel a call. I always say it costs nothing to have a chat. The point of this podcast, guys, is I like to highlight the people that are doing well. I like to highlight the agents that say what they do on the can, okay? Because there's not enough of them out there that we know about. We know about the shit agents that do the really outlandish behaviours. They exist. It exists in every industry. I've got a whole other episode coming out on buyers advocates that are shit. Trust me. I am an advocate by trade, but I know who's shit and I know the behaviours that are shit. It all exists. You just need to be aware of it and you need to know how to assess it. And having someone like Daniel come in to do an appraisal following his process and what we've learned about how his approach works, you can already tell what some of your telltale signs of is the agent just telling you the price you want to hear and put it on market and then you're going to have a shit campaign, or you're going to be told to reduce your price after 2 weeks. Versus working with the real estate agent who's the professional. And you want to know that you're dealing with someone who's going to treat buyers with respect because even though you're a seller, you are ultimately a buyer at that point as well. So you don't want to deal with the agents that are also not helping you out. So Daniel, your insights were fantastic and phenomenal and I love your energy. It's just so fun. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. I look forward to the next one.
Me too. I've got a whole other one planned. No, I do. Look, what's the last question we'll wrap up with is what's one thing you wish the public understood about agents that would make everyone's life easier?
That will make everyone's life easier. God, I don't even know how to answer that. I guess we're not all one size fits all.
Well answered. So you didn't know what the words were when they came to you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the No BS Real Estate podcast. You're tuning in on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Please make sure that you go into the comment section below. Let us know what you thought of this episode and also contact Daniel. Have a chat. It costs nothing. His details are in the show notes below, as well as the link to his very first episode with us. We'll welcome him back for another episode, future episodes. He's one of my favourite agents. So thank you again.
I appreciate it.
All right. We'll catch you next time on the No BS podcast. See you later.
That's a wrap for this episode of the No BS Real Estate podcast powered by Abodey AI. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might need it. If you're looking for more guidance on your home buying journey, you can visit www.abodey.com.au for expert advice, property insights, and the tools you need to find the right home with confidence. If you're already on your journey, you can also download our app. Just search Abodey AI on the App Store or Google Play. Have any questions or want to connect, you can follow us on Instagram at abodey.com.au or send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.